Hello friends, English Literature, Elizabethan and Jacobean Drama, The Duchess of Malfi by John Webster. Short questions with answers. Short questions 1 to 8. Question 1. Briefly describe the character of Bosola. Answer. Bosola is a Machiavellian villain in The Duchess of Malfi. He is a tool through which the Cardinal and Ferdinand carry out the most of their evil in the play. Ferdinand hired him to spy on the Duchess, for whom he serves as a manager of the horses. He keeps a vigilant eye on the Duchess and he suspects her that she is pregnant when she begins to wear a loose gown. He gives her apricots, she eats them greedily. He becomes sure of her pregnancy. He very cunningly extracts the secrets from the Duchess by praising Antonio. He arrests her under her brother's instruction and tortures her in the guise of a tollmaker. Under his command, the executioners strangled the Duchess, her children, and Cariola. As his deeds lead to worse and worse consequences, the banishment of the Duchess and her family, the murder of the Duchess and her children, Antonio's accidental death, he shows more and more remorse for his actions. When Ferdinand and the Cardinal refuse to reward him for all he has done, he stops blindly following their orders and avenges the Duchess and Antonio by murdering the Cardinal and Ferdinand. Question 2. What role does Bosola play in the Duchess of Malfi? Answer. Bosola plays a triple role in the Duchess of Malfi. First, he is a malcontent mediator. Bosola has done some dubious work for the Cardinal. Because of the service he has done for the Cardinal, he becomes a prisoner on the galleys for 2 years. As the galley slave, he wore 2 towels instead of a shirt, with a knot on the shoulder in the manner of a cloak which ancient Romans used to wear. But instead of being rewarded, Bosola is being neglected by the Cardinal. This made him frustrated, a malcontent meditator too. Secondly, Bosola is a Belian tool. In the play, he acts as a Belian of Ferdinand. Bosola was appointed as a spy in the guise of the provisor of the horses and at the Duchess's court to keep a vigilant eye upon her to prevent her second marriage. By praising Antonio's virtue and the magnanimity of the Duchess, he became able to extract the secrets from her about her marriage and giving birth to 3 children by Antonio. He also betrays the secret of the Duchess and superintends the cruel strangling of her. Thirdly, Bosola appears in the play as an avenger. Bosola makes the Duchess killed by strangling under the instructions of her brothers. But after the denial of his reward, Bosola changes totally and decides to take revenge upon the brothers. With an intention to kill the Cardinal, he enters the room and kills Antonio by mistaking him for the Cardinal. Bosola then proceeds to meet the Cardinal and kill him. When Bosola finds him, he is reading a book containing the fire of hell. When he tells Cardinal that he has come to kill him and stabs him, he cries for help. On his crying for help, Ferdinand enters the room and gives mortal wounds both to Bosola and to the Cardinal. Bosola in return stabs Ferdinand. Question 3. How does Antonio describe the French court? Answer. In the beginning of the play, The Duchess of Malfi, Antonio has returned to Malfi after his long stay in France, where he has acquired the preciseness and formality in traits of the French. When his friend Delio asks him how he liked the French court, he expresses his admiration for it. The French king wanted to discipline both the court and his people. He wanted to make them orderly and moral in their conduct. In order to achieve his goal, he has removed all the flatterers and immoral and notorious persons from his palace. He highly regards the court as the creation of God. Antonio compares the king's court to a fountain. Pure and clear water should flow from a fountain. But if there is some poison in the fountain, its water gets contaminated at its very source, and then diseases spread throughout the land. Similarly, a king's court is a place of peace, honesty, and morality. But if there are flatterers and immoral persons, the whole nation will be corrupted. Therefore, the French king performed his royal duty by removing the flatterers and dishonest man from his court. Now, the French king has a council of wise men to advise him regarding matters of state policy. Question 4. Describe the wooing scene in the Duchess of Malfi. Answer. In spite of her brother's warning, the Duchess decides to marry her steward, Antonio. As soon as her brothers leave Malfi, she tells her maid Cariola that she has already made up her mind to remarry in spite of the strong disapproval of her brothers. She asks Cariola to hide herself behind the curtain before Antonio comes in response to her summons. While he comes, she starts official business, and at one point she gives him her wedding ring and convinces him of her sincere proposal of marriage. Antonio is afraid to accept her love because he's lowborn and is not worthy enough to be her husband. She then tells him that high-born ladies are in a unfortunate position in the matter of lovemaking because they do have freedom of making love to anybody as the common people have. Society imposes upon them many restrictions which they cannot violate. If they want to enjoy the bliss of love, they have to adopt some crooked method to deceive people so that the people cannot understand that they are actually making love instead of being loved. They cannot receive love because the common people are not allowed to approach them. Besides, an ordinary man cannot venture to woo a lady of high status. So she is forced to take the initiative. Then she assures him of her sincere intention of marrying him. She lures him by saying that she is not as emotionless as the stone figure carved on the grave of her dead husband, but a creature of flesh and blood with all the bloom of youth and all the desires of the flesh, so that he would be able to enjoy her as much as one can enjoy an ordinary woman. Question 5. Comment on the wooing scene. Answer. The marriage scene, in addition to contrasting the Duchess's vivid personality with Antonio's rather passive one, foreshadows the tragedy to come. It opens with the Duchess telling Antonio she wants to write her will, immediately evoking the thought of death. The Duchess's metaphors and allusions too often invoke death. She is not an alabaster statue kneeling at her husband's tomb. She refers to her marriage to Antonio as a guardian knot, a knot that cannot be united unless cut with violence, and she says that they can put an unsheathed sword between them in bed to keep them chaste, which introduce a weapon into their intimacy. Thus, while this end of the act is largely happy, Webster gives the audience plenty of warning that such happiness will not last. The contradictions in the Duchess's character between her valiant refusal to bow before social mores and her willfulness on directly and imprudently countering the protestations of her brothers are summarized in Cariola's final soliloquy, which questions whether Duchess is a moral model of greatness or simply a madwoman. Question 6. How does Bossuet describe Ferdinand and the Cardinal? Answer. Bossuet describes how both Cardinal and his brother, the Duke Ferdinand, are corrupt and unjust for having treated him improperly. He compares the two brothers to plum trees that grow bending upon some pools. These plum trees may be overladen with fruit, but the fruit is eaten only by crows, pies, and worms of all kinds. In the same way, these two brothers have power and patronage, but only worthless flatterers can gain anything from them. If one can become a servile pimp, he can make himself rich by sucking from them like a leech that drinks blood from the horses. If a person depends on them, his fate will be the same as that of Tantalus, who was punished for betraying the secrets of the gods by being immersed in water up to his chin. The richest fruits hung before him, but when he stretches his mouth for eating them, they receded. Likewise, when he tried to quench his thirst, the water receded from his lips. So he remained forever hungry and thirsty. Thus, Daedalus is a man of entertaining a hope that remains unfulfilled forever. Similarly, the persons who depend on the cardinal and his brother Ferdinand are always disappointed in the end. Question 7. How does Antonio describe the Duchess to Delio? Answer. Antonio describes the Duchess as a paragon of virtue. Antonio says that she is very sweet in her conversation. Listening to the talks of the Duchess is a great pleasure. Her talk never becomes tedious to the listeners. One feels sorry when she ends her speech. When she speaks, she gives a man such a sweet look that if he were suffering from paralysis, he would get up and begin to dance with pleasure. Her sweet look makes a man become extremely fond of her lovely face. But the sweet look that she gives to a man is something sacred, and it does not cause any lustful desires in the minds of the listeners. She spends her life in virtuous actions. She is more virtuous and religious every minute of her life than other ladies are, even at the time when they are confessing to their priests. Thus, Antonio portrays the Duchess as completely different from her brothers. Question 8. What, according to Bosola, is the fate of a soldier in his old age? Answer. Bosola is the malcontent villain in the Duchess of Malfi. He is lustful, greedy, bloodthirsty, and jealous. Bosola has done some dubious work for the cardinal, but instead of being rewarded, Bosola is being neglected by the cardinal. So Bosola thinks of the world negatively. According to him, the soldier who sacrifices his very life for the cause of his country does not get any reward for all his services and the risk he runs. He says that the fate of a retired soldier is very miserable. A soldier, when he retires from his active service after having lost one or both of his legs or arms, has to depend on crutches to walk or to suspend his arms on slings. He has no other means of livelihood except begging from door to door or doing the almshouses or going to almshouses. Bosola here means that a former soldier, mostly maimed, will have to go around wearing awkward dresses because of strange circumstances. Thank you, friends, for watching my video.